You are now watching some exclusive YouTube content from the Terrace Scottish Football Podcast. It is myself, Craig Fowler, and Tony Anderson.
Hello.
And if you listened to our main show or watched it on our YouTube channel, you know we're going to talk about Derek Adams' much contentious comments for this past weekend, where he basically slated the standard of Scottish football and said that his Morecambe team that he just left before coming back to Ross County are 100 times better. But before we dissect it over these next 5 to 10 minutes, I'm just going to read it out first of all. So he said this on BBC after his side were defeated 1-0 by Dundee. He said, "The standard is shocking. It's one of the worst games I've ever seen. I've been back and I've seen the standard and I think, wow, any chance? If a spectator watching this today, I'm thinking, is this what Scottish football is about? It needs to up its game." Now, I don't necessarily have much problem with a lot of that. He then goes on to add, "I've left a team down in League 2 that's miles better than this team. Miles." That's saying something. We had the bottom budget in League 2 and they were 100 times better than this.
Like a bit of hyperbole, Mr. Adams.
Yes. Okay, so we'll start with kind of the first... Well, actually, do you know what? We'll start with the second part of it because I think that's the part that we think is just a bit daft. He just sounds a bit...
That's better. Just throwing toys at the pram. And I'm really hoping because Hibs are playing them on a Saturday that team is absolutely down in the dumps because of that.
Oh, your former assistant manager as well.
Yeah. And his big rubbery face. He always looks like he's wearing a mask. Derek Adams,
and his way of talking, which is very much.
I thought you were going to do that for when you. That would have got the viewers in.
I've left a team down in League 2.
Yes.
He talks a bit like Stephen Presley.
Oh,
or a
no.
bit like Karen Dunbar in Tune the Fat when she was doing the "I definitely smell shite" character.
Yes, I can definitely smell shite.
He says that when have you been giving me 100%? I smell shite.
But yeah, I've had a look. Morecambe were 100 times better with such stars as Jan Songo, former of Ross County, Jordan Slew, former of Ross County, who only scored 1 goal when he was in Scottish football. They also have Cammy Smith, who is, you know, a decent Scottish Championship player, and Chris Stokes, who was at Killie last year.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't think was particularly any good.
No.
So, yeah, I'm calling bullshit on that.
Yeah, but I mean, there's absolutely no doubt that the Morecambe days, that's when it all got bitter, toys out the pram stuff, and that's fine. One thing I wanted to say is I quite liked, even though, because I feel like we're about to switch rules traditionally with like mainstream media and players in sports scene, for example. I feel like we're literally about to swap rules. So I've quite liked how much McCann and McFadden sort of jumped to the defence, because I don't think that's always been the case. I always think we've been quite down through mainstream media and former players. So that and obviously we've done the other side. I felt like our role here.
I was thinking about this a lot recently. I was like, do we need to pivot now to be like negative? We're actually just being... We're dealing, like I said this, we're dealing facts.
Yeah.
We're dealing what we see. What we used to see was that people were always down about Scottish football. Why would you have any interest in Scottish football? It's a lot of shite. Why would you not just watch English football? For instance, it's just in the road. You could even go to games if you could be arsed spending that much money. Why bother with Scottish football at all? And our argument was, no, it's a little better than you think it is. And you should support what's in your backyard because that's the only way it's going to get better. And I think over the years... Like, it would be brilliant. I don't think we're big-headed enough to think we've done anything to help this.
No, of course not.
Even if we played a very small part in helping change the narrative, that's huge, and that we'd all take massive pride in that. But it is get to the point now where people are starting to big up Scottish football. We're like, are you really sure? Yeah. What are you talking about? When people are saying like, oh, forget about the Sky TV deal, let's try and get Amazon involved. What are you talking about? Why would Amazon give a fuck?
Yeah, well, it's always the thing about like how many... We've got, like, we could sell all the games internationally, and we probably could. We could get a better TV deal, but I think it would impact the crowds. I do. I think it would impact the crowds, and that's what you don't want. And also, I think people over-egg how much anyone would give a fuck in, like, downtown Krakow.
There's great storylines we could sell across the world. I really don't think fans from other countries are bothered unless the football is of the standard of the top 5 leagues.
Yeah, downtown.
And it's not going to be that.
Yeah. Downtown Krakow. People, you see that Franzak? They like Polish players at St Johnstone.
But so that goes to the second point. So the Morecambe thing is just nonsense. However, he said the Standard League is shocking and like it's one of the worst games he's seen. It's probably not one of the worst games. I've definitely.
There was a worst.
I didn't watch the game at the weekend, but there was stuff that happened.
I know that the Livingston Kilmarnock game must have been worse.
Yes, and there was stuff that happened in that game because I watched the highlights. I have seen games involving Hearts involving other teams in Scottish football where literally nothing happens for 90 minutes. It's definitely not that bad. But the league, we've talked about this all season. I just wrote a column about it for my first column for the Herald. Just basically, the league is no fun to watch this campaign.
It's not just about standard. I think standard. I think that's looking too superficially I think it's styles of
because there is
team.
a certain standard still. Because we saw in Europe, Hearts beat Rosenborg, Hibs beat Swiss team?
We beat Lucerne, yeah.
And Aberdeen have beat Frankfurt. Rangers beat Betis away from home.
No one's done this season.
Yeah, so there is standard there, but it's just most weekends we watching games and going, God, this is dull.
It's just there's a lot of cancer. Like, I've been workshopping a theory, right, for that. So I'm not like totally. I don't totally have it ready, but I wanted to like start the building blocks. But it's just obviously football's become like we've killed off football. They're trying to kill off Mavericks, and obviously your Pep Guardiolas and stuff. They win the game in their head, and through pure repetition. They get it done like that, and it's so stats driven football now. There's been a lot of the creativity sapped out of it, and players are going out there. And I'm not blaming them, and obviously the problem is once one player starts doing it, because they become so good, everyone else has to do it. Otherwise, they just win all the time. So this isn't like I'm not here like pointing fingers at. And I'm not like fists at the cloud stuff. It was better in my day. It's just what's happened is it's got so good at other levels, and then everyone wants to introduce it into lower levels and Scottish football and stuff. But we're not ready. We don't have the players that are good enough to really implement this. And this is my worry. I mean, it's much easier for me to use Hibs as the example. But Sean Maloney, he probably has a really good idea of what he's doing. He probably can picture it all. And because he's coaching Belgium, he's obviously not a mug. They know that, wow, this guy really knows his stuff. And then you've got Montgomery coming in, and he was able to do it in Australia in a certain style. But I'm not sure that they're under as much pressure there. Yeah. So, but when it comes here, our style's unique in the way that fans demand, in the way that we play. And I'm feeling now when we've taken away the Mavericks, we don't have enough of a standard to play out these sort of really, really intricate, like repetition styles of football. And everyone's playing the same shape, pretty much. Everyone's pretty much playing three at the back.
Everyone's playing three at the back and mostly defensive players in it. And that's a big issue as well. Like Ross County are actually a great example. Like Ross County's best two chances of this game. So there was a game recently, I can't remember where it was, but I watched it, and their best two chances were for Conor Randall, because he was the... Other than their front three, basically, because it is basically a front three, because it's three attacking players. There's usually Jordan White, Simon Murray, and Jan Danda. Beyond that, Randall was a guy arriving in the box, but Randall's like played most of his career as a right back who never scores any goals. And again, it was the same in this. He wasn't playing in the centre; he was playing at right wing back himself. But James Brown, he had the best two chances against Dundee, but he didn't score because James Brown is not a player that's going to score goals. No, he's like a decent fullback. And as a wing back, he's got enough going forward that he's not terrible to watch. He's not like James Brown, but he's also... Sorry, he's not the other James Brown, but the St Johnstone one, but he's still not... He's not an exciting enough player. He's not somebody that's going to make a difference in the scoreline in terms of that way. Yeah,
and then you see, like, with Dundee, when you're bringing a guy of Owen Beck's standard and his style, that really works. And with them, they've put Portales at the right centre-back, a footballer that can carry it out, and then it links with them. You've got Luke McCowan who comes in. So they've got the styles. It's not that they're all the best, it's just that they've got the right style of player to implement this. But like you're saying, there's teams that like three at the back with no ball players at all. And like, Aberdeen are guilty for it as well. That's why I liked it when they put Devlin in there. And suddenly they looked much stronger as an attacking outlet, because one of those centre-halves is able to go forward. He actually becomes an attacking outlet. But there's so many teams that are playing with the three at the back, and they're all just defenders, which means that you're pretty much playing with a back five all the time, and then you're playing up against three, so they're suffocating them, and they're suffocating at the middle, and they're trying to... And then, I mean, we can move on to... That's a style, but style. You can start going on to, obviously, managers. If all one team's playing that way and they're hard to beat down, everyone else starts doing it. There's a lot of copying. There's not a lot of free thinkers, and that's again because you get managers that are just off the carousel, and it's just the same people over and over again. And like you're saying, they do not have the players to implement it in any sort of attacking style.
And it's a difficult one, because because there's nothing really you could do. Like, people could suggest ideas like, do we need to bring in some sort of gimmicks? But fans are just going to hate that.
We all hate it.
Yes, we all hate stuff like that.
We've all went off the League Cup already.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's just trying to bring in penalty shootouts for draws.
And sometimes people are like, oh, that's all right, it's a wee laugh, and it was a laugh. It's like, then you're like, this is fucking wank.
You get to the end of the League Cup game now and it's a draw, and you're like, I just want to leave. I don't care.
You're lucky I came. It's this early in the season. It shouldn't be my fucking holidays. There shouldn't even be a game on.
So yeah, you can't really do that, and it's just about the top flight is very competitive by nature. Like, there's always something up for grabs. You can always maybe finish in the top six or the bottom six, and if you're cemented in either one, it either means you're going for Europe or it means that you're trying to fight relegation. So there's always competitive matches, and that just brings about the worst in managers.
Yeah, and then so this is the other thing, is like, You've got this idea. That's a really good point, though, because you always say we don't want to add teams to the league, and the main reason is because there'll be loads of dead rubbers at the end of the season. But like you're saying now, it's too competitive because it's too crowded league, so that every game does matter. But rather than that bringing out everyone wants to win, it's actually making a more it doesn't want to lose territory.
I think we can still, because we've done it before. I think it's just we're just at a fallow period at this point in time, and I think it just will naturally get better. But there's one thing, fans could just be vocal about it and say, like, we want a manager who's going to play decent football. Because...
And it does work. It does. I've seen managers...
Exactly.
At Hibs especially, I see managers get forced out even when they're doing okay.
Yes, chairman can turn around and say, well, it's all about survival and you won't care as long as we survive. We saw it with Aki's. You're seeing it to the left. You've seen it a bit with St Johnstone as well, where the fans are sick of just treading water and watching negative football every week because they don't want to watch it. And it's not worth it to just stay in the league for that reason alone. Because
at least Livingston, Martindale used to at least... He played direct football, so they play football in the box. So even though like Livingston would probably... Like they weren't going to get the European.
That's a good point as well, though. I think there's just a big talent gap at the moment. When Livingston are playing like Guthrie up front, he's not any good.
He's pish.
There's loads of there's just loads of like meh attacking players, and the best players in the league all seem to be like, for the teams especially further down you go, all seem to be like battling centre midfielders.
Yeah,
you seem to be spending more money in Scottish football now, and it's not just like the Celtic or Rangers or the other three clubs. Like you saw Livingston spend 100,000.
On a fucking goalkeeper.
We're just not using that money very well. And you do wonder as well how much Brexit has impacted this, and whether we now can't get the kind of players from England who are like Championship or League One standards that we used to be able to bring up here.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot of, and then there's the other ideas that a lot of the young players were losing them earlier.
Yes.
And so we saw it's good that Franzak's played for the Johnston. Obviously, Whittaker's come in. Hibs at a really young age, but look how young they're having to get them in, because I think there might be a bit of fear of losing them.
Yeah.
Because they all get, so there's a now a gap of players that would normally come in and be some of the best players, that are the best players that we bring through, and they light up the league for a couple of years, and then you like, again, I'll use my own ones because it's just easier, like Derek Riordan or Gary O'Connor. They come as a duo and you're like, you get a bit of time with them. Even Jason, players that are fun, they have a bit. But I do this idea we're killing off. I do really think we're killing off sort of like personality in players. I think that's something we're doing worldwide. And then I think that it bleeds into Scottish football, which is all about that. And we're never going to be able to keep up with the standard that's being played out elsewhere because we don't have the money to do it the way we don't have the coaches to do it. Like Man City and all these teams, like their attacking players work their socks off. Liverpool's a really easy example. They attack, but they work their socks off, attacking player. And I see like Hibs, they're trying to get Boyle and Ewan to do that, and then they're asking them to do so much going back that suddenly they can't do as much going forward. And you're like, but we're not good enough to really. We need to allow those attacking players to breathe and enjoy it. That's what's good for us to watch. What you're asking maybe people who maybe don't have the in them to do so much.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, and I think that's because football nowadays is just so much. It is so much.
They do fucking everything, players. They do everything.
But so much hard work. You can't just be that kind of lazy winger, fun winger who like barely bothers his arse. But when you give him the ball, he'll do something wonderful with it. So that player's kind of.
We still have to allow that. We need to. This is what we need to do.
We need to allow it.
Now we need. This is what I'm saying. We need to. This is how we sell ourselves to the world. So we need to be the league that doesn't do VAR.
Yep.
And we need to do the league where the fucking strikers have to work their fucking balls off, and it's not about their stats and how many kilometres they've all run.
If your forward has run so many kilometres a game, you get deducted a point.
Yeah. And like the guys, if you sign a winger, you fucking play them high and wide. You let them have a laugh, and they're allowed to dribble. But I think that the world of football is changing so much, and I think that we always try to keep up with it. And I think we've always been guilty of that, and rather than like what we actually have and what's ours and what our identity is. I think the national teams, but again, that's why national teams worked so well, because they've all fucked off out of this league, and they all get the coach, and a lot of them some of them are even coming through down there now. That they're almost getting coached at. So it's like you see the national team go like that. My worry is that football's going in a certain way, and Scottish football will never be able to live up to that style, and we shouldn't.
Yeah, we should try.
And
we should try and be what we are and what we like.
And then we get all those cool players want to come play here who don't want to be arsed. I'm not gonna work hard enough to play in any of these big leagues.
That's how you bring them over. You just promise them. It's like you won't have to run.
Yeah, come over. You get to fucking have a laugh.
Right, thank you very much for joining us. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the Terrace YouTube channel and check out everything else we're doing. The podcast, you can find them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on X. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.